Hey guys, what's up? What I wanted to share today is the process of how I forged the prototype for a fireman's axe. So let's just jump right into it. I'm starting with a piece of 2.5-inch round mild steel. I didn't want to waste any tool steel on this project since it's only going to be a prototype and won't actually be used. As you can see, I'm fumbling quite a bit with the tongs. That's because this chunk of steel weighs over 6 pounds and is a bit tricky to manage. It barely fit in my forge and actually got stuck coming out since the steel expanded as it heated. I begin by squishing the billet into a rectangle. As you can see, the 25-ton press makes quick work of this. I had to get the forge very hot to efficiently heat up this large mass of steel. You can even see a greenish flame coming out of the forge. I continue to work the billet, keeping all 6 sides as flat and square as possible so I have a good foundation to build the rest of the axe off of. After getting everything squared the way I want, I move to punching the eye. This is a tedious process that must be done carefully in order to have a properly aligned axe eye. Unfortunately, due to issues with my punch die, the hole ended up getting punched crooked and off-center. This was due to the punch being too long and thin, allowing too much flexing to occur. I also ran into a problem with the punch slipping past the set screw that holds it to the die. Before I make another axe, I'm going to make a thicker, stouter punch that's welded directly to the die to mitigate these issues. With the eye punched, the next thing I move on to is creating the foundation for what will be the pick portion of the axe. It's important I do this now, otherwise there will be too much material that interferes with the press clearance down the road. With the basis of the pick formed, I now move on to making the eye of the axe the proper size and shape. This is done with a series of drifts, each getting progressively larger in size. As I insert the drifts, I begin to spread the bulging material down the length of the drift to form pronounced cheeks, which will rest on the handle. This not only creates a more aesthetically pleasing product, but it also increases surface area so there is more friction keeping the head of the axe on the handle. Here I switch to a more narrow drawing die, which will allow me to further refine the cheeks and decrease the surface area so I can spread more material faster. With the cheeks and eye almost complete, I begin to draw up material to form the bit and cutting end of the axe. I say cutting end loosely since a fire axe actually isn't meant to cut like a traditional axe does in wood. They are meant to smash through roofing material rather than cut through it, almost like a sledgehammer. Keeping a thin, yet not sharp edge allows it to pierce through plywood or OSB efficiently without the blade getting stuck in the wood and roofing material. I can only do so much with the press, so I must refine the shape and planish things even further on the anvil. Here you can see me hammering another important feature of the fire axe, in that the heel of the edge has to be further back than the toe. This encourages the tool to penetrate the roofing material easier when swung in a chopping motion. With everything beginning to take shape, I move back to refining the pick end of the axe. I do this by starting the taper on the press using my drawing dies. And in case you were wondering, my foot gets a good workout operating the press treadle. With the bulk of the material of the pick stretch, I go back to the anvil and use a cutoff tool to trim off the excess material. And it's back to the hand hammer to refine and planish the taper. The next step is the final sizing of the eye. I drive my long drift into the axe, then head over to the anvil to planish up the cheeks and transitions better than what I got off the press. Here I'm using a heavy-duty wire brush to scrape away as much of the oxides and scale that formed on the axe from forging. These brushes are actually what's used to clean butcher block tables, but they happen to work extremely well on steel. With everything forged, I move on to the grinder. I'm using a worn out 36 grit belt to refine the edge and the profile of the axe. I'm careful not to remove any material on the face of the axe because I want to preserve as much of the forged look as possible. Since this is just a prototype, I'm not going to go any higher than 36 grit around the edges. When I make a working version of this though, I'll probably take all the grinded surfaces to a mirror polish since it will contrast nicely with the parts left as forged. The final thing I do is use a wire wheel on the angle grinder to give the entire axe a nice shine to it. And here's the finished product. By no means is it perfect, but it was a good proof of concept and gave me an idea of how to improve my process and tooling for the next one. Thanks for following along, and definitely stay tuned for more builds like this in future videos.